Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Benji-Sales live chat. It is so good to be back. It is so good to see everyone. First time in a while we're back because I missed again last week. Yeah, I'm on a really bad stretch lately, I know. I've only streamed like once out of the last like 6 weeks or 5 weeks or something crazy. It's been really bad, so I'm sorry about that. I'm going to try to get back to being consistent again. It's just been a rough patch. So I'm going to try to get back to being consistent, right? Back to the consistent streams, back to the every single week thing. So sorry about that. It's been, not great. Not great for my channel for how little that I've streamed. So I'm sorry for everyone that loves doing these live chats as much as I have, that they've been so inconsistent lately. I'm definitely going to work really hard to try to get back to that. So what can we talk about today? Well, we are in those summer months, right? Those slow summer months. There's not a ton of video game news to talk about, but of course, as always, there is some. So for anyone, if this is your first time ever joining my live chat, basically the way this works, this is a show, this is a stream that's completely 100% driven by you. Your comments, your questions, goes about an hour to an hour and a half each time. So start dropping those comments and those questions down into chat so we have a bunch to discuss. Now, a couple of the big headlines that have come out, there was just a big report that went down yesterday that apparently Grand Theft Auto Trilogy Remastered is coming, and I think probably most surprising of all, apparently it's coming this year, right? This fall. That to me is a bit of a shocker, considering we also have the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and S update for Grand Theft Auto 5 coming. So there's a lot of Grand Theft Auto coming apparently this holiday. That to me is a bit of a surprise, but sounds like it's going to be Grand Theft Auto 3, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and Grand Theft Auto San Andreas getting a bit of a remastered treatment. And probably the biggest deal here of all is that it's coming to the Switch, right? Kind of the first time we're seeing a lot of these Grand Theft Auto games come to a Nintendo platform. So very curious to see how those perform on there. We can talk about that, what it means, how we think it's going to sell, etc., etc. And then, of course, just today we got July NPD data. So we do have some new video game industry sales that we can talk about. I'm going to give you those headlines right now really quick in terms of how that went. And then I'll start diving into your comments and questions. So get those rocking, everybody. First of all, for NPD, just to give you a brief overview, Nintendo Switch was yet again the #1 selling console in units. It just can't be stopped, it seems. It cannot be stopped. Switch is basically #1 like every single month for years now. However, PlayStation 5 was #1 in revenue, so it did generate the most dollar sales, while Switch generated the most units. So that's kind of your hardware story. There was no real update there on Xbox, so we're not entirely sure how Xbox Series X and S did. There was nothing in the PR about that. But it looks like a good month for both Switch and Nintendo, at least. Switch and PS5 for sure. Now, for software, the #1 selling game of the month was Zelda Skyward Sword HD. So that's obviously a great result for that. Seems to be a very, very strong seller. #2 was Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. It's Call of Duty. What do you expect? It's always going to be near the top. And #3, this is kind of a standout for the month for me. Even though Zelda Skyward Sword was #1, I think maybe the most impressive result is Monster Hunter Stories 2 Wings of Ruin at #3. Because here's the crazy statistic here. That game in just its launch, right? Just launch has now tripled the lifetime sales of Monster Hunter Stories 1. That is, amazing, right? Another strong result for Capcom. Great result for Nintendo as well, since it is a Nintendo exclusive. Well, also on PC, but you know what I mean. It's a console exclusive. So really, really good result here for Monster Hunter Stories 2. #4 is Mario Kart 8. #5, Minecraft. #6, Mario Golf Super Rush. Nice second month for Mario Golf. #7 here, MLB The Show 21. Great legs. #8, Spider-Man Miles Morales. It just continues to have excellent legs. Basically, every single month, it's in your top 10, basically. Sometimes even higher. Sometimes even up into your top 5. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 at number 9. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate at number 10. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart with a steep second month drop. Goes from number 1 all the way down to number 11. I feel like that might be a topic people want to talk about today because that to me is surprising. We're in a pretty slow time of year, and for that game to go from number 1 all the way to number 11, pretty shocking. Pretty shocking, to be honest, in my opinion. Number 12, Animal Crossing New Horizons. Number 13, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1+2. Number 14, Super Mario 3D World. Number 15, Mortal Kombat 11. Number 16, Neo The World Ends With You debuts there at number 16. Number 17, Zelda Breath of the Wild. 18, Pokemon Sword and Shield. 19, Resident Evil Village. And number 20, rounding out the top 20, is Assassin's Creed Valhalla. All right, everyone, there's your top 20. There's kind of your NPD breakdown. Let's start diving into your comments and your questions, everybody. I see we got a couple super chats here right off the bat, so I'm going to hit those first. First of all, we've got Kieran Buckley with a 5. Thank you so much, Kieran. Hi, Benji. Fun question. Which 5 to 6 games do you think will be nominated for Game of the Year at this year's Game Awards? That is a fun question. That's a great question. Here's the thing, right? So, at least as of now, right, like kind of early into the year, we don't have a ton of strong Game of the Year contenders, right? There's a couple, don't get me wrong. In fact, I'm going to list some of them. But something that's somewhat abnormal is we're in August, right? Like the majority of this year is already over. We still have a few months left, but like the big chunk of this year, we're already past it, right? We're already over the halfway point. And to me, we don't have yet a game that feels like it's a lock. Like this is your Game of the Year. This is the game that's going to take most people's awards. Like, because there's been so many delays, for example, we just don't have that game that's just in your face, right? Like last year we had The Last of Us Part 2, which a lot of us felt, yep, this thing's probably going to get a lot of awards. Or, you know, I could go back to prior years. You see something on the horizon that is like, okay, even if it wasn't out yet, you're assuming this is going to be the strong Game of the Year contention. So here's a couple off, you know, kind of the top of my head. I think definitely Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart will be nominated, right? We're going to go 5 to 6 games here, like you said, for the Jeff Keighley Game Awards. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, hard for me to not see that be nominated. Got reviewed very, very strongly. You know, it kind of is one of those next-gen showcases. I definitely think you're going to see that get a nomination. I do think you're going to see Returnal get nominated, to be honest. Now, that game wasn't like this massive seller, but like the hardcores loved it. Games media loved it. So yeah, I know that's 2 PlayStation games, but to be honest, I think you're going to see Ratchet, and I do think you're going to see Returnal in there. I think It Takes Two is a possibility. You know, the awards like to nominate some indie games as well, which I think is a good thing, right? You don't want to always focus on just the biggest AAA games. And I know that It Takes Two was published by EA. It's not exactly the same thing as just like a super indie game, but it's also Hazelight Studios, which is a smaller team. So again, it got super strong reviews. I could possibly see It Takes Two in there. Here's the thing, y'all. I think there's a wild card that Microsoft and Xbox might finally get that Game of the Year nominee in Halo Infinite. I really think there's a chance, y'all. That tech test, it was just a small slice. That felt amazing. The gameplay felt phenomenal. If the campaign itself is good, I could see games media, because keep in mind, that's who nominates these games, right? It's a bunch of media, and they all vote on this to see what gets nominated. Halo Infinite, I think, is a wild card in there. Microsoft has not had one of those big Game of the Year, you know, contenders for a very long time. And I think if this game is a big home run, which remains to be seen, right? I have played it. It feels amazing, but I have no idea how the campaign's going to be, right? Literally no idea. Maybe it's trash. But if it's good, I think there's a chance to see Halo Infinite get nominated. Now, I'm not saying it's going to win, but I think there's definitely a chance it could get the nomination. this is one of the really rare years where it feels like Nintendo may not get a nominee, to be honest with you. You look and it's like, to me, the only way Nintendo gets a Game of the Year nominee here is if Metroid Dread's really good, which it could be, right? But Metroid Dread to me is a bit of a wild card because I don't think we really know how that game's going to be. I don't think it's going to be terrible. I think that's very unlikely. But I don't know that it's also going to be one of these games that's like a 90s Metacritic or super high 80s. It absolutely could be. I'm not saying it won't be. But that one's a bit of a wild card to me. And if Metroid Dread doesn't get that nomination, I can't really see anything else Nintendo's released this year getting nominated. So Nintendo's always a strong contender, a strong front runner for Game of the Year. This might be the rare year, though, where they're not really. It's just hard for me to picture what would get nominated there if it's not Metroid Dread. So that's 4 games, right? I've said Ratchet and Clank, Returnal, It Takes Two, Halo Infinite, maybe. That's a maybe for me because it's not out yet. Man, what else is left that's really Game of the Year contender? Far Cry 6 seems unlikely. Call of Duty Vanguard seems unlikely. Battlefield to me also doesn't feel like something that gets nominated for Game of the Year. Maybe something like 12 Minutes. If that's a big surprise, that could be an indie darling. That could be an indie critical hit. It's hard, right? It's hard. Once we get out of like those 3 or 4 games, like I said, this year hasn't been super heavy in like Game of the Year caliber contenders. So I'm sure I'm forgetting some stuff. But right now, that's kind of the front runners for me. Front runners for me are those 4. Yeah, those are my 4 right now. Ooh, Kieran Buckley, Monster Hunter Rise. Good call, and also good call, Big Fresh 37 with Death's Door. I like those. Anthony Johnson, Village. Yeah, there's some stuff I'm forgetting there. Village, to me, I don't know that that'll get a nominee. It actually was met kind of mixed with critics. It has a decent Metacritic, like pretty good. It's in the 80s, but it got some really low scores as well as some really high ones. To me, I don't know if that one was as universally liked across the board where enough media outlets will vote for it. Possible, but Monster Hunter Rise is a great call, actually, and so's Death's Door. Those are 2 that definitely could as well. Definitely could as well. Yep. J-Cat saying Monster Hunter Rise is one of the highest reviewed. Yeah, I agree. Rise is probably definitely in there. Definitely. I would put Rise as way more likely than Resident Evil Village. Yep. So that would be my 5 right now. And that's without seeing a bunch of other games. My 5 frontrunners, Ratchet and Clank, Returnal, It Takes Two, Halo Infinite. I'm telling you, I really think there's a legit chance Halo Infinite gets a nominee this year. And Monster Hunter Rise. That's kind of where I'm feeling right now. Death's Door is a wild card in there as well. All right. And then we had a few more super chats. Let me hit really quick. Split at 89 with it too. Thanks, Split. And best mod in the business. What has better legs than the Switch? Benji-Sales. Well, I don't know about that, bud, but thank you for the 2 super chat. It means so much to me, man. Thanks for being a great friend, and thanks for helping mod the chat. Ramses Cabrera here with, it looks like a 2 super chat and then a question. What's your opinion about Abandoned right now? This is a great question. This Abandoned thing and this blue box thing is weird, is it not? It is just bizarre. I literally don't know what to think about it. I have no idea. Like right now with Abandoned, I'm like, either this is somehow a viral marketing thing or like, it's hard for me to say a scam because they're not technically making money from this, but like what's going on here? Okay. How does this studio get a PlayStation blog post, also get an app onto the PlayStation Store? Like, it's getting support from Sony, and yet it keeps, and y'all know me, I'm a very positive person. And in fact, I like to defend devs. I like to be very pro developer, all that kind of stuff. But like what they're showing so far, and I hate using words like this, but it's just incompetence. Like repeatedly, just constantly delaying things, constantly with these weird over promises. You see Hassan, I think is his name, the guy from the studio, talking about how this will rival Red Dead Redemption 2 and realism and things. It's like, dude, what are y'all doing? You're making these like, I mean, outlandish level promises, and then you can't even get a trailer up. Like, you know what I mean? And y'all know me. Again, I am like an ultra positive person. But it's getting harder and harder for me to defend them. So if this really is a case of just an indie dev that got way in over their heads, they need to way step back. No more talking. I don't want any more Hassan comments. I don't want any more tweets. Sit back, like release your trailer, and then make your game. And don't say anything else until you have like substantial things to show. Now that is the scenario if this is an indie game, because this is the reason I'm saying this. I'm literally saying this for their own good. The blowback will be immense, okay? Because of the things that they're saying, because of the things that they're doing, not even just because of the Kojima conspiracies, which we can get into that. That's also going to have huge blowback. But they're also going to get blowback just frankly because they keep talking about how this game is going to be so cutting edge, so unbelievable, so like it's just going to blow you away. It's like, y'all, calm down. Just get your stuff working. Get everything out the door. Stop over promising. Just make the game, right? So that's my viewpoint if this is truly just an indie dev team trying to make a game. I'm literally saying this for their own good. I'm saying you're going to get yourselves in some heat and you're not going to like it if you keep going down this path. Here's the other thing though. I still don't know if this is some sort of weird viral marketing thing. I'm still very doubtful that this is Kojima, that this is Silent Hills. That just seems like so out there considering Blue Box, we know, is a studio and it's one that's existed for many years, right? This isn't a situation like we saw with Kojima in the past where he was just like making up fake companies, right? Like whenever he first revealed Metal Gear Solid 5 and he tried to hide it, he called it the Phantom Pain with no Metal Gear Solid on there. He created a studio called Moby Dick Studios, right? Like literal made up stuff. And then he did the same thing with PT, right? Put the name PT on there. I can't remember the exact name, but he also just made up a studio for that one. Like Blue Box is a studio. Like we do know that. They are a studio. And also with Kojima's like teases, I mean, they were still very professional, right? It wasn't one of those things where it's like, we can't get patches out, we can't get apps working, we're making weird messages and comments to people online. Like, with Phantom Pain, it was like a straight up, he just dropped a trailer that looked amazing and then had a made up studio name. With PT, he released a demo that was like amazing. Like as soon as you booted up PT, the graphics were amazing. You were blown away at the atmosphere. Like, they were fun and they were like, you know, teases and trying to like figure things out, but it all felt really professional. This Abandoned thing is just a mess, like all over the place. So it's hard. You know, I don't know what to say. I hope it's good. Like, I'm rooting for this game. I love horror games. I love to see indies find success, but I think Blue Box really needs to rethink everything they're doing. Because yeah, they're getting a lot of attention, but a lot of that attention is going to turn very bad for them, and they're not going to like that attention if this game doesn't come out and is absolutely amazing, right? You get what I'm saying? So I'm rooting for them. Like, I am rooting for Blue Box, and if this is some kind of crazy viral marketing thing for something else, all right, that'll be fun too. But yeah, it's rough. Okay, it's rough. All right, Benji with a 10 super chat here. Thank you so much, Benji. Thanks for all the super chats, everybody. Hi, Benji. Can you give us your early predictions for the holiday console sales? Who will win and why? And best-selling game? Call of Duty Vanguard, Grand Theft Auto Trilogy Remaster, or Battlefield 2042? Fun question. So, actually, that's a really fun question. So for holiday console sales, it's really going to come down to production. Now, globally, there's no doubt about it. PlayStation 5 will outsell Xbox Series X and S. There's just no doubt. US is still a toss-up, but it's really going to come down to who makes the most consoles. Whether Sony's going to send more consoles to the US or whether Xbox is going to sell more consoles to the US, right? Like right now, it is literally a production issue. Both of them, at least in the United States, are selling through everything that they make, right? Every console they make, they're selling. So in terms of who's the leader in the US this holiday, between those two, I'm not going to go into Switch yet. I'm just talking Xbox and PlayStation because they're the new consoles. US, it's just going to be flat out who makes the most. Whoever makes the most and sends the most to the US this holiday between PlayStation and Xbox, they're going to sell everything they make. So that's who gets ahead out of those. Globally, it's going to be PlayStation over Xbox. That's just the reality of it. PlayStation has a bigger presence globally. They have more demand in places like Europe than Xbox does. That doesn't mean Xbox is going to do bad. In fact, I think Xbox is going to do great. Every single metric we have right now says Xbox Series X and S are going to perform way better than Xbox One. Like, that debate's already over. As early as we are in this generation, it's already done. Series X and S will outsell Xbox One, and they will outsell Xbox One by a lot. But, you know, PlayStation 5 is still, it just globally has way more demand than Xbox does. Now, Switch is the wild card here. I assume, because you have to assume this with the streak they're on, I'd have to assume Switch is still number one out of all three of these for this holiday. Because Switch is just number one. Like always, right? It's always the best seller. And you still have this situation where PlayStation and Xbox are massively supply constrained. Nintendo's just doing a better job of getting those Switches manufactured than Xbox and PlayStation are. So the answer for me here, if I had to make a bet, if I had to rank global holiday sales, I'd go Switch number one, I would go PlayStation number two, and I would go Xbox number three. Okay, but I think you're going to see all three with really big sales. Switch should be down year over year. We actually just saw that this past quarter that Switch was down year over year in their shipments. I expect it to be down year over year for most of the year unless Switch OLED is huge. But I still don't think that's going to be enough, to be honest with you. I think Switch's peak year was indeed last year. I think last year was its peak. Still going to have huge years, still going to do amazing for years to come. But I think we're starting to get enough data now to kind of point to probably 2020 was the peak Switch year. And we're going to have a slow decline, I think. And this could be wrong, right? Maybe a price cut turns things around. But I'm not expecting Switch to like peak and then have a rapid drop like the Wii did, for example. But I could see Switch just very slowly now kind of decreasing year over year with 2020 being the peak. But I think that's still enough to probably put it number one for the holiday. Just because I think PlayStation and Xbox still won't be able to make enough consoles, you know, in comparison to Switch. So that's how I would rank those. Could be wrong. In the US, Switch number one, but with PlayStation and Xbox, literally who knows? Just whoever sends more consoles. And then for the games, this is interesting. I have a feeling Call of Duty Vanguard might be better than we all thought, right? There was all those reports and rumblings that were out there that Call of Duty was having very rough development, and that probably was true. In fact, I think it was true, but I think it was Tom Henderson, who's a very accurate leaker for things like Battlefield and Call of Duty. He just came out and said recently that Call of Duty fans are actually going to be very happy when they see this game. Keep in mind, Activision basically threw like 5 studios at this game. Like literally. Like over the past year, they moved Toys for Bob over to it. They have like so many studios working on this game that they may have brought that quality up just through sheer workforce, right? Like it very well probably was in a bad state, and then they just threw literally hundreds and hundreds of people at this game. And it's not the best strategy in terms of like probably mental health for your employees. I think we can all criticize Activision for how they run their company, but they may have gotten that quality up through just sheer brunt force. And if that's true, if Call of Duty Vanguard's better than we all thought it was going to be, it's hard for me to think Call of Duty is not number one. You know, Battlefield 2042, I expect to do very well. Halo Infinite, I expect to do massive in players, but not in sales. In fact, get ready to see a lot of people troll Halo. I think it's going to sell less than Halo 5. Like, I really do. I think whenever the numbers come out, you're going to see Halo Infinite way below Halo 5 in sales. But I don't think that actually means anything, because a couple things to keep in mind. Multiplayer for Halo is completely free to play. Not even just free to play with Game Pass. It's literally free to play. So if you're interested in playing Halo strictly for the multiplayer, I don't know why you would go out and spend $60 on Halo, right? You would just play it free to play. And then also keep in mind, the game's day one on Game Pass. So even if you want that campaign, if you're a Game Pass subscriber, you're just going to play it through Game Pass probably, right? Some people are going to buy it for sure. And especially I would say on PC, you'll see a lot of people buy it because people like to own their games on Steam, right? We see that all the time with games like Sea of Thieves, Forza Horizon, etc. Like they buy the game even though it's on Game Pass. Tons of people still buy it on Steam because they just prefer Steam and they like it. So I'm not saying Halo Infinite's not going to sell anything, but I think its sales, like just raw sales data, is going to look very unimpressive. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope it sells tens of millions of copies, but I highly doubt it. I think this game will be like one of those that you're going to see people go, oh, wow, Halo's a bomb, it's dead. And then Microsoft come out and say something like 10 plus 15 million players in the very first month. Because again, free to play, right? Like free to play is a huge deal for this game. So I wouldn't judge it on that. Grand Theft Auto Trilogy Remaster has potential to be absolutely massive, especially considering it's going to be on Switch. I just don't know if that's going to be enough to pass Call of Duty. So if I had to bet, it's hard to bet against Call of Duty, right? I mean, it's like literally always number one. And I know Grand Theft Auto is the one game that can compete with that, but it is a remaster and not put it this way, if it was Grand Theft Auto 6, it'd be GTA, even over Call of Duty. As big as Call of Duty is, not a doubt in my mind, Grand Theft Auto 6 would be bigger than Call of Duty. But it's a remaster. I'm going to go with Call of Duty Vanguard as number one. Timmer with a 2 super chat. What is up, Timmer? Saying no question today. Just wanted to show my support. Thank you so much, Timmer. Thank you so much, man. It's so great to see you. Thank you for being in literally every chat. Same thing with Benji. You know, I'll tell you what. I was saying really quick. This will be a short thing. I was literally just saying to some people before the chat started, I was like kind of questioning myself on YouTube. I was like, man, should I keep this going? Do people really care about the chat? You know, the growth lately has been really slow. Part of that, again, is my own fault because I've been streaming so infrequently. I was just having those doubts. Everyone gets those personal doubts, especially if you're a content creator, right? And I was like, do people really even care about the live chat? And seeing these familiar names and the people that are here every single chat, that's really encouraging. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for that, seriously. Jason Richard here with a 5 super chat. With the Grand Theft Auto Remastered trilogy all but officially announced, do you have a personal dream remaster or remake you'd like to see? Wow, thank you for the 5 super chat, Jared. And that is a great question. Some of the dreams I had have been done, right? We just got Mass Effect. Mass Effect would have been the one I would have told you. I literally would have said, give me Mass Effect. That just happened. I would have said I'd love to see Dead Space get a remaster, and we just found out it's getting a remake. Final Fantasy VII was a dream remake of mine, and we got that. Like, some of the ones I've most wanted have actually come to fruition. Here's a wild card for you, and I know some people aren't as passionate about it as me, and I know there was an HD re-release. I kind of would love to see Final Fantasy X get a full-on remake, and I know that that's not a game that needs it as much as some, especially some other Final Fantasies, right? But I'm not as attached as like to the Super Nintendo era, you know, Final Fantasies, for example, as some people are. Those games, I didn't grow up with those, right? I had a Super Nintendo, but I didn't get into Final Fantasy until Final Fantasy VII, and Final Fantasy X was kind of one of those like seminal moments, like huge games for me. So that's kind of selfish. I'm not saying it's a game that a lot of people would love to see get the full-on. I wouldn't want a remaster. I'd want a full-on remake of 10. That to me would be incredible, but it doesn't super need it. But that's one I would list, Jared. I'd love to see Alan Wake. In fact, that's high up there too. I think Alan Wake really needs a remaster. Keep in mind, it sounds like Alan Wake 2 is in development. Sounds like that is the game that Remedy is currently making with Epic Games. And here's the thing, Alan Wake 1's never been on PlayStation. And Alan Wake is the type of game that is very, very story focused. Like literally the game Alan Wake is about a writer. So if it's literally a game about a writer, story is kind of important, right? So I would think you'd want Alan Wake 1 to be on PlayStation in some way, shape, or form. So that way people that are going to jump into Alan Wake 2 have some idea at all about what's going on. So Alan Wake's another one. I'd love to see Alan Wake get a nice remaster. I don't know if it needs a full-on remake because that was an Xbox 360 game. It's not that old, but a remaster, you know, update the gameplay just a little bit, make it feel a little bit better, improve those visuals, you know, some of the facial capture work and that kind of stuff. That's another one, Jared. Those are some off the top of my head. Big Fresh 37 with a 2 super chat. Thank you so much, Big Fresh. What do you make of all the Quake rumors yesterday? Yeah, it not surprising to me, Big Fresh. You know, anyone that's watched my chat before, you know, I've said for a while, I think Quake's going to happen. You know, I had some people asking me about it, and it wasn't like insider info or anything like that. It just made sense to me after the Doom, like reimagining Doom was such a huge success, right? Doom was giant. Doom Eternal did fantastic. And then you have another IP that's just kind of sitting there in Quake that it's like, I feel like you need to give it one more go. So I believe it, Big Fresh 37. I'm curious if it's like kind of a remake and reimagining of the very first Quake, or if it's going to be like a brand new thing. For anyone that missed this, basically, if you looked, and I'm assuming this was an accident, whenever you went into the like calendar, like the plan for QuakeCon, it was just listed in there that there's like a new Quake something. So it makes sense to me. I don't know what this is going to look like. I assume it's a full new Quake game. Like that would be my assumption. At least it makes sense to me. I think you have to give that franchise one more shot after how big Doom was. You know, I think I've said it before, if you do a new Quake game and it completely fails, then you're like, okay, we tried, set it to the side. Yes, I know there's Quake Champions, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like a full AAA Quake game. If it's, you know, if it gets poorly received or people just don't play the game, then you know, okay, we tried it, didn't work, we're done with Quake for the next 20 years or whatever. But you're sitting on that IP, might as well give it one more shot. So I believe it, Big Fresh 37. It makes sense to me. All right, super chats are cleared for now. Thank you so much for all those super chats, everyone. I'm going to dive into your free questions. Split End 89, what do you want to see out of Gamescom? You know, I said this, I think, in the last chat. One thing for me is Saints Row. Saints Row definitely, if it's not a Gamescom, what is going on with Saints Row? Like, it must have got crazy delayed or something, right? Because we still haven't seen that game, and they've kind of said it's not that far away. So Saints Row, I think, needs to be there. And again, if it's not, I wouldn't say get worried as in like this game's definitely going to be terrible, but I would start to get worried about how far is this pushed back, right? Like, is this game delayed a really long time? So that's high up the list for me is Saints Row. Halo Infinite release date. In fact, I think it's almost positive that we get Halo Infinite's release date at Gamescom. Here's why. So, Xbox has already said they're going to have stuff at Gamescom, but they did say it's going to be like updates to already announced stuff. They didn't say expect brand new game announcements, and you got to get that Halo date out there soon. And Call of Duty Vanguard is probably going to announce its date here on August 19th. That's the rumors about when the official Vanguard reveal is. And that game is rumored to be November 5th, according to Tom Henderson again. So Halo Infinite date, I think we definitely get it there. I think we're going to get a Halo Infinite date. I would like to see Crossfire X. Remedy, surprisingly to me, just came out and said in their earnings that Crossfire is still going to be this year. I thought that was going to get a delay till next year, but they're saying it's still this year, and we haven't seen it in a while. So Crossfire should be there. And Keely's going to have some wild cards, right? It's hard to know with Jeff. Jeff can randomly pull out crazy stuff like Elden Ring, right? Or when he pulled out Bayonetta at the Game Awards, or when he had Hellblade 2 and the Series X at the Game Awards, and he's doing his Gamescom opening night live. So hard to know. Jeff is the kind of guy who tends to have something up his sleeve. So what that's going to be, I'm not sure. But that's a few off the top of my head. Saints Row, Halo Infinite Date, Crossfire X, etc. And then we had another good question here from Split End that I'm going to go into because I think this is a question probably a lot of people want to have about Ratchet. Is there a reason Rift Apart hasn't blown open the sales doors? Seems low at just over 1 million. So let's talk about Ratchet. So Ratchet and Clank had, I would say, a pretty good launch. It did about 1.1 million in about a month. And it was on a pretty small install base, right? About 10 million units or so. So you're getting around 10% of PS5 purchasers to buy this game. That's pretty decent. I don't think it blows your doors off. It's not, at least to me, it didn't. Like I said that in the last chat, I was like, ooh, I thought this would be closer to 2 million than 1 million. I know that install base isn't super huge, but a lot of these big time early exclusives can tend to have really high attach rates because people are excited for these new games on their consoles. So that one was like, wow, for how well reviewed this game was, to only be around 10%, little surprising, but not like the end of the world. I mean, it's still over 1 million. The thing about Ratchet to me that's worrying, I mean, it went from 1 to 11 in its second month. And keep in mind, in the US, NPD is a revenue-based chart. So that game at $70 automatically has an advantage over a lot of games on that chart because it simply costs more. So that's going to affect its placement. And then you also see, like, Miles Morales is already outselling this game. Miles Morales is 9 months old. Ratchet and Clank, this is its second month. Only its second month. It's kind of like the flagship PS5 game right now. And it gets outsold by another Insomniac game in just its second month that's way older. So by no means is this like doom and gloom. Wow, Ratchet bombed. Oh my God, it's a failure. I'm not saying anything like that. In fact, I think Ratchet and Clank is going to go on to do fine for itself. But to me, I'm starting to get some evidence that it looks like Rift Apart didn't exactly like massively grow this franchise. Which I'm curious what Insomniac and Sony think about that. My hunch is that they wanted this game to really make the franchise like a lot bigger overall, especially whenever you've seen like how successful Insomniac's been lately. So again, this isn't the end of the world. I wouldn't like run around, you know, I'm not just saying you, Split, I'm saying like anybody. I wouldn't run around and be like, oh my goodness, the sky's falling, Ratchet and Clank, it's a bomb. Not at all. But I don't know that it really made the franchise bigger. You know, I don't know that it really grew the Ratchet fan base. I'm sure there's some new players, but I mean, we're in the summer. These are like the slowest months of the year, and it drops out of the top 10 in just its second month. And like I said, was outsold by a older Insomniac game that, by the way, is also cheaper. So it is one of those things where like, I wonder how legs are going to be on this. But in the long run, it's going to do fine. It's going to do good, but it might not be like the giant breakout success I think some of us thought it would be. So yeah, it is interesting. We're going to have to keep an eye on it. It's not one of those things I want to make like bold declarations on yet. It's just its second month. But I would say if we start to get into month 3, month 4, month 5, and it still kind of slips down the charts, that would be interesting. Because there's not a ton to buy on PS5 right now, right? So you would think it's going to have an extremely high attach rate because there just ain't that many games on PS5 right now. So it's interesting. It's interesting. We'll have to keep an eye on it. Val, what's up, Benji? Love you, man. Thank you so much, Val. Thank you so much. Question: when will the PlayStation event finally come, and what do you expect to be shown? Oh, and your top 5 of 2021 so far. PlayStation Showcase, I'm still expecting to be in September. You know, I was saying that a while back, I kind of said that after we got the Horizon info and after, like in May, and then after they didn't do anything in June and they did like the Housemarque announcement. Like there was like two, and the director's cut announcement, and there was like, they were putting out so much like random little info, not a ton of big stuff, but like little things that if you notice, like anyone that watches my chat or follows me on Twitter, like I would say like back in, July, I was kind of saying, I think that this is probably going to be September then. The next time we see like a big show, right? Maybe not like a small state of play, but a big show. I'm kind of still sticking with that. I could be totally wrong. Maybe they are going to do something in August, but I don't know. I think September. And then you saw Jeff Grubb come out recently and he said September as well. So he's kind of saying what I was already thinking. So Val, that is totally my guess. Again, this is an insider info. I think in September you see Sony come pretty big. I think we actually do get like a showcase out of them because they got to start talking, right? I made a tweet about this and it wasn't like a negative or like anti-Sony or anything like that. You never know how things are going to be received on Twitter, right? Like people read into things you don't mean, and context is lost, and people just like to argue in general. But I made a tweet and I was like, it's kind of weird how we have like so little PlayStation news right now. And let me kind of give you some context what I mean behind that. So we know what Guerrilla Games is up to, right? They have Horizon Forbidden West, and we've seen some on it, but we still don't know a date. We still don't know actually quite a bit of details about that game. We've just seen one kind of gameplay chunk, and they haven't talked too much about it outside of that, right? So we at least know what they're doing, but there's still a lot of mystery behind it in terms of date, in terms of etc. Then you look at Santa Monica. We technically know what they're doing, God of War. We know literally nothing about that game. We have seen a logo. We know nothing else about God of War. So that's just a giant mystery. Insomniac, currently no announced games. Now, we just had two from them, so that's completely understandable. But I'm just kind of painting the picture for you. You'll see by the time I get to the end of this what I mean. We don't know what most of PlayStation's doing. So, Insomniac, of course, Spider-Man 2, but again, nothing announced. No announced projects. Again, I'm building the frame. Sucker Punch, no announced game. We have Ghost of Tsushima on the horizon, the director's cut, and an expansion, which is totally awesome. But again, no announced new game. Then you have Bend Studio, no announced new game. Naughty Dog, we know that they're doing a remake and stuff like that of The Last of Us through leaks, but again, no officially announced new game. You look at Gran Turismo, we've seen like a trailer on it and then almost nothing else besides that. And again, no date. You look at Pixel Opus, like one of their smaller studios, no announced game. You look at Media Molecule, and they have Dreams that they're released a little bit back, but again, no announced new game. You see what I'm getting at? Like most of Sony, we either barely know what they're doing or we don't know anything about what they're doing. So Sony's like got to talk in a big way soon. Like not a small random, hey, here's a state of play with like a couple small things. Like we need a roadmap for PlayStation. And the thing is we know that pretty much almost all of this content that these studios are making are going to be incredible. It's just we know so little of it. And I do think Sony's a company that likes to build that hype, that likes to build that excitement. So I do think when Sony finally talk, it's going to be pretty impressive. I think you're going to get quite a beefy showcase from them. And my guess, total guess, September. That's just my guess. And then for my top 5 in 2021 so far, what I've played, Ratchet and Clank, Returnal, Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Man, I'm trying to remember what else I played off the top of my head. Ratchet and Clank, Returnal, Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Man, what all have I played this year? Those are like the 3 that instantly pop in my head. What else? What else hits in my top 2 or top 5. Rise to me didn't click, but no Monster Hunter game has. I know that's weird. I know some people love Monster Hunter. I've tried now. I've tried multiple times. I literally cannot get into Monster Hunter. So Rise does not make that list for me. Yeah, I don't know. Those are the 3 that... Oh, Village. I would put Village in there for me. So, and what would be my 5th? I don't know. Those are the 4 that immediately stand out. Like, when I think the games I enjoyed the most this year, Returnal, Mass Effect Legendary Edition, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and Resident Evil Village. Those are like the 4 that immediately jump to mind. All right, let me make sure that there was no super chats. I think there might have been. There is Benji. Benji with a super chat here with a 5. Benji, thoughts on PSVR2? Ooh, I'm very excited. The PSVR didn't sell that well, and big first-party studios were MIA. How can PSVR2 do better, and what price do you expect? Well, here is the interesting thing, Benji. Speaking of PlayStation and PlayStation Studios, there was a report that came out, and I'm trying to remember who this is from, but it sounds like you're going to see a lot of the big first-party studios from PlayStation on PSVR2, because what this report was, and again, I apologize, I cannot remember who reported this. Might have been Upload VR or somebody. They said that right now, Sony's basically telling some of their teams to make games that just work on both. You can play it flat or you can play it VR. Like, just go into it with that thought process, that VR is an option. I'm not saying Sony's forcing that on all their studios, but this report said, like, and a way to get more of those first-party teams making those VR games, they told them, keep that in mind, right? On your projects, try to incorporate a way that it can have VR support or be played completely flat screen. That is very interesting to me. Again, do not expect every single game. Like, is The Last of Us Remake going to work in VR? I doubt it. But for a game that kind of makes sense, for example, if Sony has any first-person games in development, I could see that kind of thing. So, VR is the kind of thing, it just, to me, is never going to be the main way people play games, like, ever. I do not think you jump 50 years into the future. And I could be wrong, but you jump, like, 50 years into the future, and I don't think most people are playing games VR. In fact, I think most people are playing games exactly how they are right now. Maybe through different modes. Maybe people are streaming them. Maybe they're playing them through their phones. Maybe they're playing them through consoles. But I think most people are still just going to play a game on a flat screen. Because VR, the flat out fact is it's just not for everybody. I really like it, but not everyone does. So pricing, again, I don't think they can go over $300. For the entry level. Maybe you have a 2 SKU approach. To me, that seems, I don't know, maybe confusing to people, but I think your entry level can't be over 300. 350 max. I mean, 400, you start to get pretty steep. I mean, one of the main reasons that Quest 2 has been such a success for Facebook is that pricing. And I know they're taking a huge loss on it, but that also has to have the components to operate within it, whereas the PSVR headset is still going to connect to your PlayStation. So, man, I could see them launching at 400, to be honest, but here's what I'll say. If they launch at 400, I think it will be slow out the gate again. Yeah, I think it'll be slow out the gate again. The thing is at the end of the day, it still is an accessory. Like, that's a lot of effing money for an accessory, okay? So if I was Sony, I'd be really trying to get that thing in at 300, like, as hard as I can. Because we've seen at 300, there is demand. Again, look at Quest 2. Quest 2 has sold phenomenally for Facebook. 400, whew, that's tough. That's tough. But that's kind of some of my thoughts on it. Forzathon is back saying, hello, how you doing, Benji? I'm doing good, Forzathon. Doing good, buddy. Pendant Beard saying, Benji, man, what is up? What is up, Pendant? Dark Detective saying, hello. What is up, Dark? J Cat saying, hello. What is up, J Cat? Thank you, everyone, for the familiar names, the friendly faces. KB's asking about the Sony event. Again, I'm guessing September. I don't have any inside info on that. If I maybe had some, I'm not above and beyond sharing when I hear stuff sometimes. Um, you know, Here's one. Like, if you go back, one of my chats, I totally hinted at y'all that Dead Space was coming back. Like, hardcore. I was like, I think you'll see more Dead Space soon. So I'm not, like, above sharing whenever I hear things sometimes. Not always. Most of the stuff I keep to myself. But I'll tell you what, if I, like, knew for sure a time frame, like I heard from several people, and I was like, I have a very good idea, I might hint that to you, but I have no idea. September's just a guess for me. I don't actually even know anyone that knows for sure. I mean, I might know them, but they haven't told me of a for sure date. I just think September makes sense. Matt Duffy. Benji, you are a legend. Thank you so much, Matt. I wish I was a legend. You will make an absolutely amazing analyst when it happens, which it will. Keep pushing and never stop. Matt, that comment means the world to me, and I'm dead serious about that. Thank you so much, Matt. Like, seriously. Every time people give me those encouraging words, I'm telling y'all, it might not seem like a big deal, like, to someone on the outside, right? To someone, like, here, it means a lot. Every single one of them, right? I'm not one of those people that takes support and that kind of thing for granted at all. So thank you. Like, seriously. Forzathon's asking if I think we're going to get the Halo Infinite release date at Gamescom. Yes. I think it's 100%. I think it's literally a lock. By the time Gamescom hits, we're at the end of August. Halo will be launching within like 3 months, right? The very end of August. Then we got September, October, November. They have to have the date there. So yes, I think so, Forzathon. And you said even if Call of Duty isn't revealed, I think Call of Duty is going to get revealed because literally all the artwork and the pre-order bonuses all leaked, which means this thing's right around the corner. That 19th rumor seems to make perfect sense considering we now know what the game looks like, at least in terms of like conceptually. So yeah, I expect August 19th, Call of Duty to give you that date, which sounds like it's November 5th. And then I think you get Halo's date at Gamescom, 100%. And my prediction for Halo is late November, like late. In fact, I wouldn't even be surprised if it's Black Friday week. That to me actually would make a lot of sense. So late November, especially if Call of Duty is November 5th, because then that gives you a couple weeks, between Call of Duty and Halo. So that's my guess. Halo date, Gamescom, very late November. And Isildur's Bane saying, I think we could see the date then. Activision is a partner, so I'm sure they know the date internally. Exactly. Xbox knows the date now. In the past, I don't think they did because I don't think Activision knew exactly when. You saw Phil Spencer's comments about this, and he said, even just like a month ago, they asked when the Halo date would be announced, and he said, they had it narrowed down to a couple weeks. They were just waiting for some dates from their partners. So Activision themselves probably knew, hey, this game's gonna be November, but what's the exact date? So they should have that date nailed down now on Activision's side, and now Microsoft can go ahead and give it an exact date for Halo. So yep, yeah, I think so. Sounds PP7, would Rockstar skip the Red Dead Redemption remaster if the Grand Theft Auto Trilogy doesn't perform as well as they expected? And what improvements would you want in a Red Dead Redemption remaster? Also, could it be packaged with the Red Dead Redemption 2 remaster? Ooh, interesting question. That is very interesting, Sounds PP7, in terms of the end of that. So, yeah, anyone that missed it in the actual original article about Grand Theft Auto Trilogy getting remastered, they did say that Red Dead is as well. Now, that's going to be later, they said. But they said there's already, that's in the works, a Red Dead remaster, which to me makes perfect sense. I mean, Red Dead Redemption 1, it's pretty old now, right? Pretty old. It's obviously not as old as the PS2 Grand Theft Auto games, but it's also not like, a super modern game. It's decently old now, so I think that game could use a remaster. And I like your question about could it be packaged with the Red Dead Redemption 2 remaster, because we know they're doing that for Grand Theft Auto, right? It's getting a nice remaster. We don't really know what it looks like, but it's getting some sort of next-gen version. it would be silly to me to see Red Dead Redemption 2 never get any PS5 and Series X enhancements. So I assume that's going to happen eventually. My guess is they won't be packaged together because Red Dead is new enough. Maybe they don't charge like a full package price to upgrade. Maybe that's just like a $10 or $15 thing that you just pay on the network to upgrade it. And would they skip it if the trilogy doesn't perform well? It's possible, but I think the trilogy is going to sell a lot, and particularly on Switch. I know Grand Theft Auto is so popular on PlayStation and Xbox, but I think this will be probably huge on Switch because Grand Theft Auto's never really been on those platforms, right? There has been like the very rare occurrences. There was that game like Chinatown Wars or something like that on the DS, but like regular GTA, like Vice City, San Andreas, like getting that on a Nintendo modern console, I think that's big. I think that sells a lot on Switch. Like a lot on Switch. Dark Detective. Ghost of Tsushima and Death Stranding are the only first-party PS5 games announced for all of the second half of 2021. I know it's crazy. And they're ports. How will this drought of first-party content affect hardware sales? It's a fantastic question, Dark. Fantastic. So we're going to go into... it looks like one of the longest droughts of modern PlayStation, right? In terms of like brand new first party games, right? We have Kena, which I am unbelievably excited for, and that does have PlayStation backing, but it's not like a PlayStation Studios game. So we're basically going to go from June, early June for Ratchet and Clank to now that it sounds like Horizon ain't coming till next year. And who knows, is that game February? Is that game March? Like, we're basically going to go at least probably 6, 7, 8 months without a single big new first-party PlayStation game. That is, I mean, I can't really remember a gap that long in like recent PlayStation years. So, and we all know why, right? It's delays because of COVID. So, it's not one of those things where it's like, oh, it's Sony's fault. I mean, look at how long of a drought Xbox just had, right? Xbox went. I mean, the Series X finally in Flight Simulator finally got its first true next-gen only exclusive. So they also had a massive drought. But, yeah, you know, I think it won't hurt them too bad because I think just overall demand is so high that, that they'll still be fine in terms of hardware. However, here's the thing. I think this helps Xbox a lot. Like, especially if Forza Horizon 5 and Halo Infinite are really good. Now, when I say that, do I mean, oh, suddenly now Xbox is just going to outsell PlayStation? When I say helps Xbox a lot, I don't mean that. But I mean in messaging, right? In like the way it looks. The thing is Microsoft's been, and we all know this, they've been kind of raked over the coals for years now from people saying their games just aren't on the same level as PlayStation. They're not on the same level as Nintendo. If you get into this situation where you have this nice 1-2 punch of Forza Horizon 5 and Halo Infinite, again, this is assuming they're good, and you're in this holiday period where there's just no big new PlayStation games, I mean, I think that definitely does help at least a perception there for Xbox. So demand is so high right now, I don't think it necessarily hurts PlayStation not having these games, but I do think on the flip side, it does help Xbox like a lot, especially if these games, like I said, if these are like high 80s or even a 90 Metacritic on these games, you know, suddenly you're in this weird situation we're not used to where Xbox is the one having the big flagship, highly reviewed games, and PlayStation's the one kind of waiting. So, yeah, if anything, I think it just helps Xbox. But again, this is strictly assuming Halo and Forza are good. If they're bad, then that goes out the window. But you know what I'm saying. JCat saying, I'd love to see how many Switch versus Steam copies of Monster Hunter Stories was sold. I'm so happy the game did well. I thought for sure the franchise was dead. Yeah, JCat, this is, I mean, fantastic news for Monster Hunter. You're going to get a Monster Hunter Stories 3 after this, for sure. I'd have to assume Switch is by far the lion's share of sales, just looking at things. Looks like that game did do really well on Steam. It hit a really nice concurrent player number. But yeah, Switch is definitely, I would say, the bulk. And I mean, you're gonna get a 3. Like, there's no way you don't after this. To triple the lifetime sales in the US of the first game in just your first month, that's pretty darn good. You know, obviously it's not going to ever be as big as a regular flagship Monster Hunter, but you don't triple the lifetime sales of the previous entry and just not make a sequel. There will be a Stories 3. You know, it might be a wait, but yeah, that's a great result. That to me was the most impressive result of July NPD. Even though Zelda was higher, I mean, that's impressive. That is an impressive game. I think we just had a super chat drop. We did. Thanks for an awesome chat, everybody. This has re-energized me so much. Benji with a 5 here. You're Nintendo's advisor. They're torn between Switch Pro in late 2022 or Switch 2 in 2024. Or Switch 2 in 2023, skipping a Pro. Your call. Yeah, this is interesting, Benji. This is actually a fascinating question and one I've been debating with, you know, some of my sales buddies, you know, some of who are in this very chat. The timing of Switch 2 is going to be very, very interesting. I think that Switch Pro probably is not real anymore. And I was someone that was on that Switch Pro bandwagon, Benji. I was someone that really thought it was going to be real. Once we saw those Bloomberg reports and stuff, I could still be wrong here, but I feel like there was some way that the wires got crossed and people got confused. And maybe Pro was something they were thinking about, but I don't know. I don't think that you would launch the OLED and then a Switch Pro that close to each other just next year. I mean, maybe you would. Maybe they still do the Pro next year, but I don't know. And by the time you get to 2023, like at that point, I definitely think it's too late for a Pro, right? So it's hard to know for sure, but I kind of feel like that Pro is probably dead now. Maybe it was a concept, but the OLED to me kind of screams that maybe they have decided against this. Now, the Switch is monumentally successful. I mean, it's literally going to go down as one of the most successful consoles literally in the history of video games. When you look at how much hardware it sells, when you look at its just absolutely record-setting pace of software sales, you're even seeing third-party games like we just mentioned with Monster Hunter Stories and Monster Hunter Rise doing massive numbers on the platform. Like, it's so healthy that you definitely drag it out for a while, right? My prediction is Switch 2 either late 2023 or early 2024. So I definitely don't think you see it early 2023. Remember, the regular Switch launched in March. I think March 2023 might be a little too soon. But if they decide to go for a more traditional holiday release, I could see holiday 2023. But that is my prediction, and that could be completely wrong. But I'm kind of thinking late 2023, early 2024, if they like that March time slot and they kind of want to slip in there again. Those are my kind of predictions. Like I said, my hunch is that 2020 was the peak year of the Switch. You never know. That could change with software releases. That could change with price cuts. We'll have to see. But my guess is 2020 probably was that peak year. And again, though, like I said earlier in the chat, I don't think we're looking at a scenario like the Wii, where it's like it peaked and then boom, it's going to drop. I mean, if 2020 was the peak year, 2021 is still going to be massive. 2022 is still going to be massive, right? Like, you get what I'm saying. It's still going to have some huge years left in the tank, even if 2020 was its best year. So they can ride it out still for quite a while if they want. So late 2023, early 2024 is my guess. Thanks for that super chat. I think that was like your third one, Benji. Thank you so much. Ramses with a great, nice comment. Support the channel. You're great, Benji. Thank you so much, Ramses. Thank you so much. Yeah, another like crazy stat here. Like we're just talking about Switch's momentum, y'all. Listen to this. This is nuts. Forzathon is back. By the way, Benji, did you see that the 30 best-selling games in Japan last week were all Nintendo titles? And this has never happened since 1988. I mean, y'all. That is crazy. The top 30 best-selling games, every one of them was Switch. That's what I mean. Like, if you're Nintendo, you definitely don't need to rush a Switch 2 out the door. Like, even if your peak year has already happened, you still have so much momentum. Like, and again, that's assuming. You don't know. Maybe 2022, they do that price cut. They got stuff like Zelda. Maybe 2022 is over 2020. I tend to not think so, but I think it'll still be huge. So they're good. They are good. Split End says he thinks that Hitman is a lock for the Game of the Year awards. It's possible, but here's the problem, Split End. Quality-wise, that game probably is good enough, but Hitman has the unfortunate thing where it was so early in the year, and I feel like people are so focused on other stuff now that it could get forgotten about. I agree with you that it looks quality-wise like it could be in there, but there's a reason, you know, you kind of see, like, for example, in movies that are quote-quote Oscar bait tend to release like late in the year. They try to get it closer to when those Oscar nominations are going to come out, so it's fresh in people's minds. You know, Game Awards tend to be similar, not the exact same, but you do tend to see a lot of games that are like the second half of the year get nominations. Again, not all of them, but I think Hitman runs the risk of, because that was like January, wasn't it? It was really early. People could have maybe forgotten about it by the time the Game of the Year awards roll around. It's still a contender, I'd say, for sure, but that is one risk. JCat says they think Shin Megami Tensei 5 is going to review really well. I agree with you, JCat. I agree with you. I don't know that Shin Megami Tensei 5 is the kind of game that will get them a Game of the Year nomination. Possible. You know, you've seen Persona 5, for example, get nominated. I think it'll review well. I don't think it'll get a Game of the Year nom, though. But I think it'll do well. I could definitely see like an 80s meta for that. Yeah, I could see that. Split End saying, watch Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy blow us away and run away with the Game of the Year nom. I'm actually looking forward to Guardians of the Galaxy. I thought that it looked a little rough at E3, but I also did like some of what it was doing. Like, I liked kind of talking to the other Guardians, almost somewhat Mass Effect style. I'm actually excited for that game. I have no idea if it's going to be good or not, but I'm excited for Guardians. I'm planning on picking it up, actually. I'm pretty stoked for that game. I'm more excited for that than I was Avengers. I'll put it that way, for sure. Like, I'm definitely more excited for that. This is about Abandoned. Mazio saying, doesn't the studio have a mediocre at best background, canceled games, unlisted ones, ripoffs, and other stuff? Yes. Which makes everything about Abandoned more weird to me. Like, if you look into Blue Box's past, again, you guys know me. I was saying this at the beginning of the chat. I'm very pro-dev. I'm very pro being, optimistic and being kind and being, like, positive. They have a very sketchy background. Lots of canceled games, lots of fun like Kickstarters that didn't actually turn into anything, lots of weird stuff. So it's like, how did Sony do any research at all into Blue Box whenever they gave them a blog post and they, agreed to do this app? Like, this whole situation's so weird. Because if you look at Blue Box's track record, again, it's not good. It's not good at all. So it's weird. The whole situation's bizarre. It is completely bizarre. HTK360 saying, howdy. What is up, HTK? Diagazo saying, we do care. Live chats are fantastic. Thank you. I love the live chat too. I love it. I love it. JCat saying, wouldn't Halo Infinite campaign and multiplayer be counted separately in terms of player count? No, you would lump that together. You would definitely lump that together. It's all still Halo Infinite. It's just one part of it you can access as free to play. But no, I mean, if I was Microsoft, I definitely would I'd bundle that whole number together. It's all Halo Infinite. Like, Halo Infinite free to play is still literally called Halo Infinite, just like the campaign is. It's just the multiplayer you can access for free, and you got to pay for the campaign, but it's all Halo. I would bundle that all together, and I'm sure they will too. They'll take everything and bundle it all into one big number. Microsoft, listen, I can tell you guys this. I mean, I'll openly say it. I literally had someone extraordinarily high up in Xbox. I won't name any names. We're talking high up that totem pole, okay? I mean, I'm just going to flat out tell you this. Way up the totem pole. They like literally told me they don't really care about selling games anymore. Do they want to sell games? Yes. It's not one of those things where it's like, we don't want to sell any games. You know, all game sales don't matter. But I can literally tell you, this isn't a theory. I have had Microsoft themselves, Xbox, tell me that like sales isn't their really metric they look at anymore. They don't really look at that. Is it nice? Yeah. You know, is it extra money when you sell games? Yeah. That is literally not a priority at Xbox anymore. Literally for them, it is all about engagement. If you notice, every single number you get out of Microsoft is total players. That's all you're ever going to get. I don't know that they will ever tell you again how many units of any game they ever sell again. I don't know that they will ever tell you that. People need to really rethink how they think about Xbox, because I can tell you Xbox has rethought how they think about Xbox. Sales are nice, but that's not really what their business is built on anymore. It's just players and engagement, because that's what's going to fuel things like Game Pass, things like free-to-play, like they're doing with Halo, and projects like that. So they want to sell games. I'm not telling you, they don't care at all, but it's not that big of a metric anymore. It's really not. And I know that for certain that it's not. Interesting. Alarm said, from the rumors, I heard it was going to be a Quake 1 remaster and a big Quake reboot later. Could be. Yeah. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me. I could see that. Yep. I could absolutely see that. A Quake 1 remaster. Though they did kind of already do that with RTX. So it'd have to be like, I would say more like, more to it. But yeah, I could see that. I think Quake is going to get some kind of AAA reboot game at some point. John Scott, Benji-Sales, first time catching you live. Awesome, John. If you're still here in the chat, thanks for watching live for the first time. I usually do these every week. In fact, for a long time, I hit every single week. Like, I didn't miss for quite a while. Lately, John, it's been really bad. I've streamed literally, this is like the second time in the last like 6 weeks or something. I've got to get better about that. There was a lot of factors that have gone into this. I don't want to do that again, so I apologize. But John, thank you so much for being live with us here for the first time. With Zelda -- 1 in NPD, do you think sales are over 3 million already? Ooh, shipped? Yeah, I would say yeah. Yeah, shipped, I would probably say definitely. How much did Link's Awakening ship its first quarter again? Let me see. But I think so. I just want to make sure I have some context around what it shipped. Yeah, Link's Awakening shipped 3.13 million units its first quarter. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it shipped 3 million. I don't know if it sold through 3 million yet, John. That to me is more up in the air, but I definitely think it has shipped. Yeah. I mean, if Link's Awakening shipped 3.1 mil, I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to, yeah. I think it's probably already over 3 million shipped. Pierre Garner saying, cool t-shirt. Thank you. Thank you. Rocking some Xbox today. You got Minecraft, Halo, Forza, and Ori. And I guess that's Sea of Thieves over on the end because it's a treasure chest. Danger Man 1337. PS Abandoned seemed to be a scam. I don't know. Maybe. It's weird. Danger Man, it's weird. Danger Man talking about Vanguard being rumored to be November 5th by Tom Henry. Yeah. And then you're saying that you guess Halo Infinite is 2 weeks later. It makes sense. Yep. I'm with you on pretty much all that. Makes perfect sense. I think Vanguard might be bigger than we all thought it was going to be honest. I know it sounds crazy, especially with all of the lawsuits and craziness that's going on with Activision. This isn't me being pro Activision. In fact, I am so critical of that company. It's unbelievable. They're like the only major publisher that, I just feel very negatively about in terms of like a lot about that company. This isn't about the people. I'm sure most of the people making Call of Duty are probably amazing. There are some horrible people at Blizzard, but I'm sure most of your just regular entry-level developers, you're just standard devs making the Blizzard games. I bet you most of them are good people too, right? It sounds like it's a lot of abuse from horrible executives and things like that. So this isn't me being critical of the regular staff at Activision, but the leadership from the top down. I am very critical of that company. That being said, I don't know. Vanguard might be bigger than we thought. This is assuming that they threw enough bodies at it to fix it. But Tom Henderson talking about how he specifically said Call of Duty fans are going to be very happy. And this was Tom who originally said the game was in rough shape, but this was, months back that he was saying this. If it's a good game, Call of Duty could be massive. Could be massive. Dark Detective saying Nintendo will want to drag the Switch's life out as long as possible. Yeah. Yep. Plus 2022 is big for Nintendo in terms of first party. So that makes me think what we can expect in 2023. Perhaps it'll be a bit slower again. Yeah, Dark, I'm with you on all points. All points. Like I said, I would guess late 2023 or early 2024 for Switch 2. It just depends on if they want to do that holiday release time frame or if they want to do that, early part of the year. I think holiday 2024 would be pretty late, to be honest with you. Even as healthy as Switch is, that's pretty late. I'd be surprised if they went that late, holiday 2024, but yeah, I could see it early 2024, like that March time frame again. I could see that. Ooh, we had a super chat. From BitCloud Gaming. What is up, BitCloud? What is up? BitCloud with a 5 super chat. Thank you so much, BitCloud Gaming. Good to see you, man. The fact that we are getting a Grand Theft Auto Trilogy remaster instead of remakes while Rockstar is repackaging Grand Theft Auto 5 is beyond hilarious. Yeah, BitCloud. On one hand, I totally get like doing the remasters because, it's going to sell a bajillion copies and isn't that expensive to make. And also, by the way, this makes perfect sense why Take-Two went and pulled all those mods down, right? Like, how hilarious is that now in retrospect? They just went down and were like, striking all the mods for the PC versions of the older Grand Theft Autos. Well, duh, here's our answer, because literally remasters are about to drop. But yeah, the fact that we still don't have a new Grand Theft Auto even announced, yeah, it's kind of hilarious, right? It's going to be a while. It's going to be a while. Here's the thing, if Grand Theft Auto Online, here's just the facts, BitCloud. If Grand Theft Auto Online wouldn't have been as big as it was, we definitely would have had Grand Theft Auto 6 much sooner. It's one of those things that's like Grand Theft Auto Online went so insane for them. Think about how long ago Grand Theft Auto 5 came out And like this past year has been like the biggest year ever for Grand Theft Auto Online. It like is still enormous. And then when you look at how many units GTA 5 is shipping every quarter, it's like, yeah, you know, I don't love it. Like as a consumer, I want Grand Theft Auto 6. Like I want this game. But GTA Online was such a freaking success for them that they can just take their sweet time. You know, that's like almost the downside of when a game gets so big, is like you gotta wait forever for the sequel because they can just ride it out for so long. You know, when it's a big success but not crazy where you're in the 100+ million range, you know, you want to pump that sequel out in like 3-4 years max. But when you're selling freaking, you know, still tens of millions of units a year, you can just wait. I mean, that's literally what we're seeing with Mario Kart, right? Like another prime example. We're talking about Grand Theft Auto here. Same thing with Mario Kart. There's no rush for Nintendo to put out a new Mario Kart because 8 Deluxe just keeps selling. I mean, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was still in the top 5 this month. So it's like, it sucks, you know? But, I mean, it's amazing for Nintendo. But, I mean, if you want Mario Kart 9... it's like Nintendo ain't in any rush. You know what I mean? You'll definitely get Mario Kart 9 at some point, but when a game that old is still in the top 5, it's crazy, right? Thanks for the super chat, BitCloud. But yeah, you're right on. You're right on. That it's a bummer. There's just no... I don't think we're going to see Grand Theft Auto still for years to come, unfortunately. I think Tom and Jason Schreier said like 2025 maybe. Like... dang. Wow. I think maybe they said like 2024, 2025, something like that. It's crazy. Crazy. All right, we're going to go for about 10 more minutes, and then I'm going to call the chat. Thank you, everyone, for an awesome chat. I'm going to do 10 more minutes. I got time to just hit a few more questions, and then I'm going to bounce. Ooh, this is a great question from Benji. This is a great question. Benji, is the $70 price tag affecting potential sales for PS5 titles? I mean, apart from Miles Morales, PS5 titles disappear quickly from charts. Benji, I think this is still an open question. I said this back when I was talking about Returnal. And Returnal did, you know, it did pretty solid, especially considering probably what the budget for that game was. I think we still don't have an answer firmly about how $70 affects games. Now, let me be clear here. If you are the biggest brands in the world, if you're Call of Duty, if you are Madden, if you are FIFA, if you are NBA, I think that question's basically already answered. Look at Cold War. I mean, Call of Duty Cold War has sold absolutely incredible. Madden has sold incredible. NBA sold incredible. NBA was $70. So if you're like literally one of the biggest brands on the planet, you can get away with it. I don't know that we have enough data yet for $70 games for those games that are in that like 1 to 5 million range, right? They're nice sellers. They're your solid sellers, but they're not like your juggernauts. I still want more data. I still want more data on that because it is interesting, Benji. I don't think we have a firm answer. I really don't. My hunch is that in the long run it'll all be a wash. Maybe some games sell a little bit less at $70, but other games make up that revenue, you know, because they sell a lot and they sell, you know, they make up that gap. Like maybe when all's said and done, it's a wash, and you know the bigger games just get more money, and it all works out for the industry. I think we need a few more of these $70 games to launch that aren't your biggest brands, and keep a very close eye on that. Very close eye on that, because it is an open question. I still think, Benji. I definitely think so. Big Fresh 37 saying, I didn't know you talked to Phil Spencer. Well, I can already tell you it wasn't Phil, okay? I did not talk to Phil. I have never talked to Phil Spencer before in my life. Never. Phil has liked my tweets. Phil has retweeted my tweets even. But I have never spoken to Phil. So, I will not say who I have talked to. But it was not Phil Spencer. It was not Phil. I'd love to talk to Phil. You know what one of my dreams is to get an interview with Phil. To really talk to him about the strategy. Because here's the thing. I love a lot of other podcasts. I love a lot of other people that have landed interviews with him. I feel like this is one of the very rare occurrences. I feel like I could get you a good interview with Phil, talking about the business and strategy side of Xbox. I really do. I think I could get you a good interview on that. Because I think I would talk to him differently about it than like most other media people do. Here's the thing though. A, I'm probably nowhere big enough to ever get an interview with Phil. And B, I don't know if Phil would want to talk on the record as openly as I would want to talk to him about things like Game Pass, about things like, you know, some of the metrics they see and things like that. Like, I'd love to though. I think if he agreed to it and he was open, I think I could get you a good interview with Phil Spencer. I really do. I just don't know that he would do that. I don't know that he would ever do that. But it's a dream at some point. At some point, I hope I can wrangle Phil into chatting with me on camera, because I think we could have a really cool talk. I really do. Like, he's someone I really want to talk to. I'll be honest, I would want to talk to Phil Spencer more than Jim Ryan. Not against PlayStation, but I don't know. I feel like Jim's interview wouldn't be as interesting as Phil's would be, to be honest. Big Fresh is saying, I think they'll announce Game Pass numbers when they hit a big milestone like 25 million. My guess, and again, it's a total guess, Big Fresh, I think 30 million might be when you hear next. I would guess they're already at 25 million. I think they're already there. And they didn't say anything. So 30 is what I think. But I could be wrong. But Big Fresh, I think the next outright PR number you get from them is 30 million subs. Here's the thing. Here's what's funny. I saw Jez from Windows Central tweet this out. Did you guys know apparently the reason Microsoft didn't give you a number in the past was literally because of Jez? I don't know if y'all saw this. He sent out a tweet and he said that Microsoft were going to announce a number, but because he put out that one thing on accident where he misread a number, that he was saying that they hit a milestone. It was just an honest accident. It wasn't one of those things like Jez was like trying to be misleading. It was a legit accident. He put out a number that they hit it quicker than they did. And so Microsoft was like, oh, that number's out there and we didn't quite hit that in the time frame that he said. So we're just not going to comment on that. So if so, that is hilarious. That is hilarious that we can all blame Jez for not getting us that Game Pass number. But Big Fresh, I'm going to guess 30 million. I'm going to guess 30 millions whenever you hear that. Okay, I'm going to hit 2 or 3 questions and we're out. 2 or 3 questions and we're out. Ashu Neji is saying next year Call of Duty is going to be huge. I mean huge. Yes. Ashu Neji, if you are talking about Call of Duty 2022, that thing is going to be a freaking juggernaut. And that's because that's going to be Infinity Ward and it's going to be the Modern Warfare sequel. And y'all, Modern Warfare 2019 quite literally is the fastest selling Call of Duty ever. It sold over 30 million units in less than a year, y'all. In less than a year, it sold over 30 million copies. And did you hear what I read out at the beginning of this chat? It was, listen to this. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019, it is still in the top 10. It was number 9 in the US and NPD this year. Call of Duty 2022, the Modern Warfare sequel, that thing's going to be a freaking mammoth of a game. Mammoth. We'll have to see how Vanguard does, probably massive, but there's not a doubt in my mind Call of Duty 2022 is bigger. That thing is going to be a beast. A beast. Oof. Deadly 8. Hey, Benji boy, I am late. Hope you're doing well. With the Delta variant and the uncertainty of game development cycles, is it still possible PlayStation will announce 2022 2023 games, especially with God of War 5? It's a great question. It's a great question. Yeah, it looks like Delta's going to come and jack everything up, right? You're already seeing movies get delayed. Just announced Venom get delayed. You're seeing now box office results that seem to be collapsing. And I know movies and video games are different, but if you notice, Suicide Squad did bad. I mean, it just did bad. It's just the reality. And you're seeing a lot of people come out and be like, oh, HBO Max saved it. And it might have. I'm not telling you that HBO Max did bad, but the people that say the box office wasn't bad for Suicide Squad are factually wrong. And I'm saying factually. Like, you are wrong. The box office was bad. Okay? But that doesn't mean that Suicide Squad itself is a flop. Who knows? Maybe they got a ton of subs to HBO Max. I mean, they very well could have, right? I don't think you can base everything about Suicide Squad's performance on the box office. But the actual box office number was, I mean, it was terrible. And now you're seeing Free Guy, which is about to come out, and that's tracking incredibly low. Delta is just jacking everything up. It's jacking everything up. So I'm very curious to see how that's going to affect game dev. It looked like for a minute there that like we were getting back to a good spot. We'll have to see Deadly 8. I think it's up in the air. It just depends on what happens with Delta over the next couple months. It's a great question though, because it seems to be already coming and playing havoc with other industries. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. All right, one or two more and we're out. One or two and we're out. Big Fresh 37 with a 2 super chat right at the end. How is Psychonauts 2 going to do? I think it's going to be one of those games that's probably a decent hit on Game Pass. Not a massive seller. You know, the first one is kind of one of those games that's like a cult classic, right? The first one was never huge. It hasn't had like a massive marketing push. But again, Psychonauts 2 also didn't have a massive budget. I look at Psychonauts 2 as just one of those like nice, filling up your calendar kind of games. You know what I mean? So I think it'll be a nice success on Game Pass. I think you'll see a lot of people playing it. But I'm not expecting Psychonauts 2 to be one of those games that like just blows up, right? All of a sudden you're seeing it sell millions of units and like, you know what I mean, topping charts and things like that. But keep in mind, I don't think Microsoft's expecting that either. And I don't think Double Fine's expecting that. So every game has different expectations. I think Psychonauts is just like one of those nice, and when I say a calendar filler, I don't mean that in like a negative way, right? I don't mean it like, oh, it's just filler content. Not at all what I mean. I just mean it's not one of those like tent pole games you plan your year around, right? Because you do that. Like when you're a game business, you know, you're looking, you're like, what are my like tent poles? What are the games that are like driving this business? I don't think Psychonauts 2 is one of those kind of games. It's one of those games that fills your library up. It keeps it looking attractive. It gives you different kinds of experiences. So it'll do good, you know, for what it is. Just, I'm not expecting like a crazy performance, but that's okay. It doesn't need to be. Okay. Last one here from Dark Detective, and then we're going to call it a chat. Thank you, everyone, for an amazing turnout today. Really quick, here's my spiel right at the end of the chat. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already. I think we got actually really close to 3,000 subs. In fact, I think I actually did break 3,000 subscribers and then lost subscribers and went back under 3,000 again. So that means I should be right around 3K. So subscribe if you're not already. Like the video if you haven't yet, because that helps the YouTube algorithm, helps people find my channel. And we're going to end things here with Dark Detective saying, Benji, fun bet. Will we see Dead Island 2 at Gamescom? Ooh. Deep Silver is supposed to have 2 AAA titles out by March. Ooh, fun. That is a fun bet. That is a fun bet. Will we finally see Dead Island 2 again? Ooh, Dark is the expert here when it comes to Deep Silver and Embracer and all this. Like, Dark is the expert. I'm going to say... All right, it's a bet. Let's see. I feel way more optimistic we see Saints Row. I think we're finally going to see Saints Row. Like I said earlier in the chat, if it's not there, then I guess it got a big delay. So I would say if I had to bet, I would feel more confident we see Saints Row. But you know what? Let's just be hype. Let's just go with it. Dark Detective, I'll take the bet. We're going to see Dead Island 2 at Gamescom. I'll just go for it. All right, I have no idea if it's going to be. If you would have asked me to bet on Saints Row, I would have said yes, for sure. Saints Row is going to be there. I am not confident in Dead Island, but let's just go for the hype. Let's just say it will be. All right, everyone. Thank you for an amazing chat. It was so good to be back. I literally swear to you we are going to do a live stream next week, and I'm going to be back to my every single week schedule. I'm not going to tell you I'll never miss again, but we're not going to do this streaming 2 out of 6 weeks. Like, it's just horrible for my channel. It's horrible for you guys that enjoy doing these. It's just bad across the board. And these things, like, literally make my day and make my week. So we're back. We're rocking. Thank you, everyone. Subscribe to the channel if you're not. Like the video if you like doing these chats and you enjoy them. Follow me on Twitter if you don't already. I'm just Benji-Sales. Same thing I am here. All right, everyone. Stay safe. Play some games. I will catch you next time either here on YouTube or on Twitter, and I will see everyone soon. Have an amazing day. Have an amazing night wherever you live. Play some awesome video games. Peace, everyone. Bye. Bye, 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 bye.